Hi guys! Welcome to the Onmyoji Maven Beginner's Guide series. In this episode, we'll explain the significance of the three biggest creatures in the Heian-kyo battlefield: Orochi, Kraken, and Nen. We'll explore the different stats and effects that these three giant monsters provide. We'll also share a few tips and tricks in finding the correct timing and strategy in sealing these beasts with ease. Knowing these tactics will help your team secure the most coveted victory. So without further ado, let's begin! Orochi, Kraken, and Nen are three of the important objectives to secure in the Heian-kyo battlefield. These huge river creatures are exceptionally powerful and challenging to slay alone. Whichever team can defeat them will absolutely benefit from the large team-wide buff and pushing advantage they reward. But what exactly do they give your team? Let's discuss each monster one by one. The first boss monster that appears in every game is the Kraken, a gigantic octopus that sits on top of a Japanese boat. Kraken starts spawning in the lower part of the river 4 minutes after the start of the battle. It will reappear at the same location 4 minutes after being defeated. However, when the battle reaches the 15-minute mark, this epic creature will no longer respawn and will be replaced by the Nen. Once Kraken has been slain, you and your allies can obtain two rewards: the Fear of Kraken and the Kraken's Flag. Fear of Kraken is a buff that increases your whole team's attack damage and ability power by 5%. It is permanent for the entire duration of the game and can be stacked for 3 layers at max. On the other hand, the Kraken's Flag is dropped by the Kraken and can be picked up by any ally. It is used to summon Kraken to aid your team in pushing lanes. If your team failed to pick up the flag, it will expire in about 25 seconds. After summoning, the Kraken will search for and lock down the nearest enemy turret. It will stop the turret from attacking ally minions and Shikigami. Therefore, the Kraken is very useful when you want to put pressure on an enemy's lane.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
When a turret has been destroyed, the Kraken will proceed to the next one until it gets wrecked. If your tower is attacked by the Kraken, you should kill the Kraken as soon as possible to prevent damage to your own building. Another important tip to note is that if the flag is not used for 2 minutes, or if the flag bearer dies, it will lose its effect. You also cannot move when summoning the Kraken, so you better be careful as you can be susceptible to enemies. You should be mindful when and where to summon the Kraken to maximize this advantage.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Next, we have the majestic lion, Nen. As mentioned previously, the first Nen will replace the Kraken 15 minutes after the game begins and will respawn every 5 minutes after defeating it. Slaying Nen will give Nen's Fear to the entire team and drop a revival potion which can be picked up by an ally Shikigami. Nen's Fear is a 2-minute buff which doubles the effect of Fear of Kraken stacks. In this example, Chin's team has slain the Kraken twice, as shown in the icon below. It means her team already has a 10% AP and AD bonus. However, as she slays Nen as well, her team now has double that effect, meaning the 10% bonus is now 20%. In addition, it also adds 50 points of true damage per second when hitting enemies with abilities or normal attacks. This is a huge advantage, especially in the late game. Since everyone is already fully builded, any additional bonus damage can be the difference between a win and a loss. Revival Potion grants immortality to a teammate as it allows the holder to be resurrected 4 seconds after death, restoring 1000 HP and 400 MP. This effect can only be used within 2 minutes. Starting from the second Nen, there will be an additional 100% true damage to the buff of Nen's Fear, which can stack up to 5 layers. So you don't want the enemies to take advantage of the Nen if the game takes too long to finish. Lastly, we have the legendary 8-headed serpent, Orochi. This boss monster appears in the upper part of the river 8 minutes after the game has started. Just like Nen, it will reappear at the same location 5 minutes after it was sealed. Because of this creature's great power and strength, defeating Orochi immediately turns the sky dark and transforms the original minions into a ghostly demon parade led by the powerful Ghost King. The demon parade is summoned in 3 consecutive waves and in all 3 lanes to assist in destroying the enemy's base. They are stronger than the original minions and give the enemy slower experience. In addition, sealing the 3rd and succeeding Orochi provides an additional layer of buff to the demon parade. Each layer of buff increases the HP of the demon parade units by 50% and attack damage by 30%, which can stack up to 5 layers. Furthermore, beating Orochi reduces the return time and increases the regen speed in the same way well. This immensely helps the team recover lost HP and MP quickly to help the demon parade push all lanes. Now that we have an understanding of each of the 3 epic creatures, it's time to learn several points you need to consider in order to secure these crucial objectives. Tip number 1 is knowing these creatures' attack patterns and damage amounts. These can help you determine if and how quickly you can bring them down before being caught by the enemy team. The Kraken has 3 different physical damaging attacks: a long-range stun, an AoE damage, and single target attacks. The first move is always the stun, wherein the Kraken sinks its tentacles underwater for a second before it strikes the most nearby Shikigami, causing a stun. Afterwards, the water surrounding the ship randomly spews upward, dealing damage to the Shikigami close by. Finally, it pauses for approximately 2 seconds before dealing 4 slow single-target attacks. This pattern of attacks is repeated until the combat ends, allowing players to prepare for each as they come. Nen is a more powerful foe than the Kraken. As such, it has much more formidable set of moves. It assumes a power stance like a majestic lion before slamming the ground. This sends surrounding Shikigami flying up into the air while dealing magic damage. Nen also has 3 different debuffs which he casts randomly in a fan-shaped area in front of him. The blue one stuns, the yellow one slows, and the red one burns. Although Nen's abilities don't follow a specific sequence, the signal on the ground gives enough time to dodge the incoming attacks. Orochi is a much more dangerous foe than the Kraken, as it has a higher base HP and physical attack. It also has a repetitive set of free moves: a knock-up, an area attack, and several range basic attacks. It's easy to dodge the knock-up and area attack. Avoiding the knock-ups give you more time to focus on dealing damage. Although there is a little delay in Orochi's projectiles, you can't dodge them once they are casted. Thus, be mindful of your Shikigami's health. Don't push it if your health is already low, as Orochi's projectiles can still catch you while you're fleeing. Tip number 2 is gaining vision. Even though slaying these massive creatures grants your team a huge advantage, you still need to take caution before initiating an attack. If the opposing team finds out you're engaging these beasts, it's a good chance for them to launch an attack. If the enemies manage to snatch Orochi, it will give them time to build an advantage. So how can you prevent this from happening? A common effective strategy is to let 2 or 3 players take on Orochi while the remaining players enter the brush to secure vision control. This way, you can slaughter enemies attempting to go near the monster. This holds off the opponents, preventing them from spotting your allies as they eventually slay Orochi. You can also let an ally put pressure on the farthest lane. This way, the enemies are distracted and won't notice your allies taking down the boss monsters. Another way of minimizing risk when killing these creatures is to initiate a full team attack on the boss monsters whenever 2 or more enemy Shikigami have fallen. This way, the enemy team is outnumbered and would be at a disadvantage if they engage you while taking the boss monsters. It is very important to avoid attacking the epic creatures when you cannot determine the foe's positions, as they may spot you and ambush your team. Lastly, if the battlefield is too quiet and the enemies are missing, it's best to check on Orochi as it is likely that the enemies may already be slaying it. In this case, Ebisu managed to check the river, however it's already too late as the enemy already secured Orochi. As an added tip, destroy the red Daruma or river lantern near the location of the Kraken and the Orochi to gain vision in that area. Tip number 3. When at a disadvantage, think twice before going for Orochi unless you have a particularly good opportunity. This is applicable when your team is behind in terms of coins and experience. At this point, the enemy team has better equipment and level up abilities, so if they discover your team sneaking off to kill Orochi, your allies will drop like flies and you can kiss Orochi goodbye as the enemy team snatches Orochi. So unless you have outnumbered the enemies, or know that the position of the enemies are far away, it's best to avoid initiating an attack on Orochi when at a disadvantage. Instead, open your eyes for a chance when the opponents attack Orochi. Since Orochi gives out huge damage, you may catch your opponents vulnerable while getting Orochi, thus getting a chance for an epic comeback. As an example here, KARASU and AOANDON were able to catch the enemy team attacking Orochi. Since the enemy team has been wounded by Orochi, the duo were able to ambush and kill off the enemy team. Tip number 4 is timing. Defeating these boss monsters as soon as they spawn is a good strategy. The earlier you slay them, the bigger the advantage you'll get. You might think that the bonus 5% attack damage and ability power granted by the Kraken is relatively insignificant in the early game. However, if you constantly take down both the Kraken and the Nen, the bonus damage can stack up to a maximum of 6 times. Taking down Orochi in the early game also grants a relatively larger reward. Early on, Orochi is easier to deal with, but as the game progresses, Orochi's HP and attack damage rises, making it more challenging to kill it. Rush Orochi whenever you can ensure that number 1, the enemy team is far from Orochi, and number 2, your team's damage is enough to kill Orochi quickly. Only then can you have the assurance that you won't be interrupted mid-fight. Moreover, battle spells are also extremely important in fighting boss monsters. Subdue is best saved for securing the Orochi, Kraken, and Nen, so press and hold this spell when they are very low on health. After killing Orochi, you can choose to fight in a single lane or initiate a split push. You'll find that doing this can often help you take down a couple of turrets, or even take down the enemy space. That's it for this video, guys! I hope you found this video helpful in explaining the importance of killing the Orochi, the Kraken, and the Nen, as well as in giving tips in successfully slaying these boss monsters. Now we can jump into the game and put our techniques into practice. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed watching this video. Hope to see you again in our next episode. Thank you for watching!